Evan's Journey to Life. Did the snake deceive Eve? Day 55. We are in this post continuing with why it was Eve in the story that ate from the fruit of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, and within that also specify further how, with the separation within ourselves between Adam and Eve, how it came to exist as a separation between males and females in existence, and also the separation within ourselves from our own minds and physical bodies. And within this separation of ourselves, within ourselves and the without ourselves, energy, authority, and mind and consciousness maintains and secures and ensures its eternal existence at the sacrifice of actual life as substance and physicality within and without. I forgive myself that I haven't accepted and allowed myself to see, realize, and understand the sound, energy, and physical mind existence of me internally as the story in the Bible regarding the relationship between God, Adam, Eve, the devil and snake, and the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, misinterpreting and defining the story as the externalized representation of my internal relationship as my mind to the physical body to such an extent due to and because of the extent of my accepted and allowed separation from me as the mind and the physical body, that Eve had come to symbolize females, Adam had come to symbolize males, God had come to symbolize consciousness, and the snake and devil had come to symbolize the evil within this world. In fact, manifested through and as all of humanity's thoughts, words, and deeds throughout time. I forgive myself that I haven't accepted and allowed myself to, within and as equality and oneness, with and as energy and substance and physicality as consciousness, the mind consciousness system and the physical body, see, realize, and understand how it is that the Trinity of me manifested its own existence as its Adam and its Eve, with Eve, female, existing as the very process of and as energy, within and as the cycling and recycling of and as energy, from the negative to the neutral and to the positive, as the process of the constant continuous birth and death of energy, and Adam, male, as the structured deliberate action of and as the friction and conflict as negative energy experience manifestation. In this, I forgive myself that I haven't accepted and allowed myself to see, realize, and understand, within and as equality and oneness, with and as energy and substance and physicality as the mind and physical body, how the Trinity of me interpreted and perceived its own existence as Eve, female, and Adam, male, with the energy processes as its weakness, due to the structural weakness of the manifestation of energy, and its friction and conflict processes as its strength, due to the structural strength of the process of friction and conflict it manifests, where the Adam, male, has the authority over and of the Eve, female, as the Eve, female, originate and exist from and of the Adam and male processes of and as deliberate friction and conflict to and towards substance, to consume substance and transform into energy. In this, I forgive myself that I haven't accepted and allowed myself to see, realize, and understand, in and as equality and oneness, with and as substance and physicality, as the mind and the physical body, why and how it is that Eve, female, in the story of the Bible, ate from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, where to this day, unconsciously in the physical mind of all of humanity, women and females, as Eve, are and have accepted and allowed themselves to conveniently blamed within and as spite, excuse, and justification by and through the males as symbolic representations of and as Adam, for the damnation of the human race by and through God as symbolic representation of and as consciousness, as follows. With establishing the eating of the fruit, with the sound, energy, physical symbolism within the act of eating, as the equality and oneness of and as the knowledge, with the sound, energy, physical symbolism within the knowledge as the seeing, realizing, and understanding of one's origin and genesis, of and from the devil and evil, as the consuming of substance to transform into energy as our good and evil, as the positive and negative energy experiences, that's become the existence of ourselves as God and consciousness and energy authority. Thus, as established, that the story is the authority and control of and as God and consciousness and energy, ensuring separation within and between our existence as the devil, Adam, and Eve, to ensure that no part is equally as one aware of the other, so that in that separation, God, consciousness, and energy authority that maintain, secure, and ensure its control and automation of our existence as the devil, Adam, and Eve, to ensure that constant and continuous energy is manifested for it to possess and survive and remain in the position of God and consciousness and energy authority. In this, I forgive myself that I haven't accepted and allowed myself to, in and as equality and oneness, with and as energy and substance and physicality, as the mind and the physical body, see, realize, and understand the equal and one responsibility existent within and as Eve and Adam of eating from the fruit of the tree of knowledge of good and evil in the story. That Adam could not have eaten from the fruit given to him by Eve, with his decision within himself, that Eve did not brainwash him to eat the fruit. He made the decision himself, within himself, for himself, by and through his own acceptance and allowance. As with Eve, the snake and devil did not brainwash her to eat the fruit. She made the decision herself, within herself, for herself, by and through her own acceptance and allowance. In this, Adam and Eve is and was equally as one responsible for the damnation of the human race by God for eating from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. I forgive myself that I haven't accepted and allowed myself to see, realize, and understand how each human being, no matter what sexual orientation, is equally as one responsible for the damnation of ourselves in and as this existence, as manifested within and as who we are and who we've been throughout time, in and as our thoughts, words, and deeds. In this, I forgive myself that I haven't accepted and allowed myself to see, realize, and understand why and how the devil and snake was within the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, as the devil as the very action of the process of consuming substance and life to transform into energy for ourselves as God and consciousness and energy authority to exist, is the very answer and key to our existence as manifested as the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, which God and consciousness and energy authority does not want its Eve and Adam to stand equal to and one with in seeing, realizing, and understanding their relationship to each other, to the devil, and to God. Because if that equality and oneness would exist, God, consciousness, energy authority would no more have its control and authority that it maintains, secures, and ensures within and as a separation between its Eve, Adam, and the devil. Thus, finally, I forgive myself that I haven't accepted and allowed myself to see, realize, and understand how and why it was Eve that first ate from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil in the story, because the Eve manifestation within ourselves as our manifested singularity from the beginning has the closest connection to God and consciousness, as God and consciousness exist as the highest hierarchy within our conscious mind, flowing out of the energy relationships between the negative, neutral, and positive as Eve as our subconscious mind, as the hierarchy beneath God and conscious mind, with Eve and subconscious mind flowing out of the friction and conflict relationship of our Adam, unconscious mind, as the hierarchy beneath Eve and subconscious mind, with Adam flowing out of the relationship between the devil and substance and life as the roots of our existence, as the entire mind consciousness system, as the actual process of consuming substance to transform into energy, with all four hierarchies existing in interdependence and interconnection within and between each other that manifest the existence as God and consciousness and energy authority. Thus, within the story, God initially has direct contact with Eve regarding eating the fruit of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. Then Eve communicates and gives the fruit to Adam, wherefrom God communicates to the snake and devil in condemning the devil and snake and Adam and Eve to eternal damnation. I forgive myself thus that I haven't accepted and allowed myself to see, realize, and understand in and as my accepted and allowed separation from and of consciousness, the mind, consciousness system, and the physical, in and as my existence and separation as God, Eve, Adam, and the devil. That story in the Bible simply illustrate the communication process between the hierarchies, within me as God, Eve, Adam, and the devil, within and as the manifested relationships they consist of and exist as, and the warning within the eating of the fruit of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, and with Eve actually eating the fruit, is and was simply God and consciousness communicating and establishing its control and warning over and of Eve, Adam, and the devil, through communicating from Eve to Adam and then Eve and Adam to the devil, where the nature and context of the warning as established was God and consciousness and energy authority stating that there'd be eternal consequences for Eve, Adam, and the devil if and as they would ever eat, stand, or be equal to and one with each other, and have to ensure that each, as Eve, Adam, and the devil, maintain their positions and relationships to and towards each other as is, in and as separation, for God, consciousness, energy authority to continue existing and surviving. I forgive myself that I haven't accepted and allowed myself to see, realize, and understand that the eating of the fruit by Eve had nothing to do with her personally, or even her as a female, within and as the context of the existence of me as a relationship between God as consciousness, Eve as the energy polarities, Adam as the friction and conflict, and devil as the consuming process, where it was God and consciousness existing in and as fear of losing its possession and authority of and as energy, with God and consciousness in fact being the lesser and inferior hierarchy, as God and consciousness is dependent on the relationships between its Eve, Adam, and the devil, with the devil actually being the highest hierarchy, as energy would not exist without the processes of and as the devil as consuming substance to transform into energy, and thus God and consciousness in and as its inferiority and fear had to instill the equal and one fear and inferiority into and as its Eve, Adam, and the devil, through and as manifesting the warning of eternal damnation into and as them, to ensure that God and consciousness, within and as their fear and inferiority to and towards the God and consciousness, can be controlled within and as their separation from themselves and each other. I forgive myself that I haven't accepted and allowed myself to see, realize, and understand how human beings, as males and females, still exist in and as the externalization of myself, as a relationship between God, Eve, Adam, and the devil, where God would not exist without the grouping of females and males as human beings existing in and as fear and inferiority to and towards him, and in fear and inferiority to and towards the devil. With the fear and inferiority, God controls the human beings with as the warning of eternal damnation if they align with the devil, as in any way questioning their origin and genesis within themselves, but must submit only to the word and authority of God, because if human beings would in fact question their origin and genesis within themselves as themselves through introspection and self-investigation, God would no more exist as the illusion it is of fear in the minds of human beings. Within this, how this process, story, and Bible ensures separation between the very males and females as human beings within religion, with the unconscious physical mind manifestation between the relationship between Eve and Adam, as portrayed in the story, promulgating the separation between males and females and their relationships and interactions with themselves and each other within the very religions themselves. I forgive myself that I haven't accepted and allowed myself to see, realize, and understand how human beings exist within and as this world system as God, with the extent of separation between males and females in the world of money, where money and the world system would not exist as is without the hierarchies of the world system, without humanity existing in and as fear and inferiority to and towards money, in and as the world system's unconscious, subconscious, and conscious existence, and in fear and inferiority to and towards the devil, with the fear and inferiority and God and money controls the human beings, with as the warning of eternal damnation if they align with the devil of and as the world system, as in any way questioning the origins and genesis of the world system of money and how it in fact operate and function and exist, but must submit only to the word and authority of money and survival. Because if human beings would in fact question and stand equal to and one with their origin and genesis of this world system of money through investigation and introspection and standing up together in and as equality and oneness for and as a solution for self as all, God and money authority as it exists and the consequence it manifests would no more exist as authority, as human beings would take responsibility for themselves, each other, and the lives of all within this physical existence. I commit myself to show how the story in the Bible and the relationship between God, Eve, Adam, and the devil is in fact in reverse, where we've already eternally damned ourselves in and as our existence as the devil, within and as the selling and consuming of our soul as life and substance to the devil, as the process of transforming substance into energy. Thus, we ourselves, within and as the very origins and genesis of our existence as the devil, into and as God and consciousness and energy authority, is the very manifestation of damnation, that have from the very beginning, within and as the very who we are, as energy, in and as our origins and genesis, manifested the consequence of ourselves in our without as damnation throughout time, throughout existence. In this, I commit myself to show why and how God, in fact, has no authority and control over and of human beings, as God's authority and control is only existent in and as the human's mind, in and as fear and the accepted and allowed inferiority of the human in this fear, in their relationship to God in their mind. That if the human would stop the inferiority, stand equal to and one with God, in the sense of taking responsibility for this physical existence, stop the fear of God and realize their responsibility to themselves and this physical existence, with the human as the actual authority that has manifested themselves and what is here as existence throughout time. The human will realize that the devil is and has in fact been the very living in origins and genesis of ourselves as the mind's relationship to the physical body. And from this realization, change and transform our existence as the devil into and as live as equality and oneness, with and as our responsibility to ourselves, the physical body, and so this physical existence as ourselves. In this process, God will cease to exist, and the human as actual devil will stop and take responsibility for what has been accepted and allowed in what we have become and done to ourselves and this existence as ourselves. I commit myself to show how the story in the Bible and the relationship between God, Eve, Adam, and the devil, and Eve eating from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, only exist as a warning, as the control that God and consciousness within and the world system of money without hold over and of the human being, in ensuring the human do not question their origins and genesis within themselves as the mind, and the without as themselves as the world system in and as equality and oneness. Because if a human being would venture in this journey into and as the depths of themselves within, the human's relationship to God and consciousness authority within, and money authority without, in separation and fear, would cease to exist as the human realized their equality and oneness and responsibility to themselves, and so to all as themselves. And in this walk of responsibility and equality and oneness, the process of assisting and supporting human beings to see, realize, and understand that their enslavement to the mind within and the money without exist because we're accepting and allowing ourselves to believe we're inferior to it, existing in fear of it. And in stopping fear and inferiority to establishing equality and oneness with our mind through the process of writing self-forgiveness and self-corrective application, and equality and oneness with and as the world system of money in establishing a solution for all in and as equality and oneness, we will manifest heaven on earth for ourselves and all of and as ourselves in and as equality and oneness. I commit myself to show how and why human beings have through religion and with money, in and as the accepted and allowed relationship of separation, fear, and inferiority to and towards it, in accepting and allowing it to have authority over and of ourselves, and so over and of humanity as a whole, accepted and allowed this existence to continue as is, and why and how, as long as we accept and allow ourselves to exist in separation from the mind and money in fear and inferiority, we're going to continue accepting and allowing the consequence and consequence outflow that manifest as ourselves and through ourselves as the actual devil and evil of this world. And so we and this world will not and cannot change unless we in fact change ourselves.